You are watching the Big Dog Postgame Show, brought to you by Viener Foregates and the big dog himself, Rick Jacklich, at the Jacklich Law Group. This is the Big Dog Postgame Show this Sunday afternoon as Maryland heads to Purdue, and the Terps don't win this time. They lose to the Boilers 83-78. I'm Wayne Viener. That's James Gist. James, and Maryland was in this all the way to a 2 or 3 minute spell where they sort of lost their composure. But I'll start from the top. What was your take on today's game?
There's a lot of good takes that you could say. Maryland went on a road, very tough road game. They had the momentum. They've been winning a lot of games lately. They've been showing good faith and good basketball, good energy, everything. Defensively, they've been showing a good identity, and they went into Purdue with that mentality. And with that being said, they put up a tough fight. Fortunately, towards the end of the game, they kind of lost their composure. Um, Lost the discipline in the offense. I guess they didn't trust the offense, and Purdue, stayed consistent with what they were doing all game, and they made shots down the stretch, made plays. That's what it came down to.
Derik Queen, 26 and 12. The best thing I might have seen today is those 3-point shots, but looking back on the game, him making those 3-point shots sort of changed the way Maryland played offense.
It definitely did. But I mean, he was the hot hand, so you got to play through that. With that being said, if he's not in the paint creating and he's on the outside, taking shots, you got to have a inside presence, when it comes to rebounding. Those few minutes that Geronimo had got in the game, I know he had been injured for a while, but he came in and got some big rebounds, and then he was out again. I would like to see Kapari in the paint rebound a little bit more, and we need some rebounding from the guards. That's where the guards come in. The bigs can't just be responsible for everything, even when it comes to rebounding. A lot of those long rebounds, you just need those. You need those guards to come up with some of those.
Trey Kaufman-Renn for Purdue played an inside game, ended up with 21 points, 8 boards. He was really effective in the paint as Purdue started to build that late lead.
Yeah, definitely. He played. I mean, they just played very high level, high IQ basketball. They weren't satisfied with the first option. They would get to the first option. If he felt he had a one-on-one opportunity, he would take that. When he saw the help, he made the extra pass. When they saw the help, they made the extra pass and they knocked down the shots. And that's just simple basketball. Ball movement where you create really good shots.
Braden Smith, 24 points, but some dagger threes. He has 24, 10 assists. Boy, he as soon as Maryland backed off of him, especially late, the ball was in the air and it was in the net.
And that's the thing you got to understand when you have guards like that are coming off of pick and rolls, high pick and rolls as a big, you have to be up on those ball screens. Got to be up on those ball screens so that they see a body, at least for that half a second, to give your guard an opportunity to get over that screen and get back in front of him so that he doesn't just take that 3-point shot like in rhythm. That's like a rhythm 3-point shot that you would take in practice when somebody's just passing you the ball. You're just stepping into it or you're taking one dribble into a 3-point shot. And that's what it is when our bigs are so deep in the paint or not up on the screen when that guy comes off. And he had a couple big dagger threes at the end where it's just like, you just got to be up on that screen.
So the coverage, the media coverage there, talked about the difference of hedging, which some of the other teams, Marquette and Penn State did, and then where Maryland is waiting sort of in between to see if that big's going to come out and close out. What is your preference? You've played that position, so how do
Yeah,
you see that?
I mean, it depends on the players. I believe that with Queen, he showed that he can be mobile, but at the same time, putting him in a hedge defense, you kind of burn him out later in the game. You don't want him to be in a hedge defense so much. He's long, athletic, he can get some deflections with his hands. So a 2-on-2 defense of what Maryland has been playing works for him. But a guy like Reese or a guy like Apare or even Geronimo, when he gets extremely healthy, you put those in those hedge situations where you're aggressive and that head prevents again guards coming off for a 3-point shot. It also prevents easy pass to the big, right directly from there. If they don't have a big that can create so much. But also you have to be able to recover. And Gapare, Reese, they and Geronimo, they have the ability to hedge out quick, defend the ball, get back to their position after one pass. And that benefits them. But that comes with discipline, that comes with practice. You see the potential that Maryland has in today's game. They're able to go on the road in a number 8, hostile environment and put up a big fight.
How much energy does it take to chase that guard out? Usually, you see a lot of the video, for whatever the reason, it keeps looking like you chase the guard to the guard's left as they come off of that screen. I don't know why I don't see it as much to the other side. But back to the question, how much energy does it take to chase like that?
It takes a lot of energy. I mean, you got to think you're chasing somebody off ball. They don't have the ball, so they're moving to get opportunities to get open. But it's not really a one-on-one defense. One of those things that I learned from Rick Pitino, and from a high-level coach when I was in Greece was that defense is not one against one. It's one against five. You're moving all together. So there's help, there's recovery, there's helping the helper. And you have a guy who's supposed to his responsibility is to chase this guy off of screens, but it's also the big's responsibility to give him a half a second, show off of that screen real quick. It's also the opposite big to be there to help in case there's a slip to the basket for a layup. So it's not just one person's responsibility to handle that, but it's not very easy. You got to be in shape. You got to be in shape because in all aspects of the game, that guy's running to get open. So transition, half court, easy baskets they're trying to get so they can get going because that's how they do. They're shooters.
Jacoby Gillespie, some spectacular threes. And as I think was Robbie Hummel said on the telecast, Steph Curry type shot. He has 18, 1 rebound, has 4 assists. So the assists are a little bit higher. It was hoping maybe somewhere in there he was going to take one more because he seems to be able to make those shots.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that he can make them at such a high clip and the degree of difficulty that he shoots them at. Imagine if they were just in rhythm, wide open shots, off of good passes and extra passes. He's really a good shooter and he really creates a lot for the team. And we got to be able to use that. We got to use that. We got to use him. We got to use Rice. I even like what Miguel was able to do today. He was aggressive attacking the basket. He knocked down some big shots, and Queen's ability to just make plays, to find the shooters when everybody's helping inside. He can find these guys. And so when they can catch the ball and knock down shots like that, I think the percentage goes up even more.
This is the Big Dog Postgame Show. We will be back in a moment after this word from Viener X and from the Big Dog himself, Rick Jacklich. Maryland has a tough time on the road. In the end, they fall to Purdue 83-78. We'll be back in a moment.
So Terp fans, if your family's injured in a car crash, you'd be barking mad not to call Rick and the Big Dogs at the Jacklich Law Group at 855-BIG-DOG-1.
But as you know, Coach, it's not the last win, it's the next win that's so important. And that's why we continue to hustle, continue to work so hard for all of our clients to earn that name, the big dogs from the small firm. Just like you do. You get your guys hustling all the time.
That's why we love you, Rick.
And most of all,
go Terps!
Back at the Viener Four-Gate Studios, we roll on with James Gist. Kevin Willard ended up using all of the timeouts, but used 3 of them relatively early. What do you think of the way that he handled that game? I guess I'll go with throughout the game.
Right. I mean, in a way, you got to spare your timeouts, but when you see that the team is starting to lose control, you kind of use the timeout to have a moment to gain control of the game again and gain control of your team so that they don't start playing sporadic. Purdue started to gain a lot of steam in the second half, more towards the second part of the second half after the late 10 minutes. And that was a key part. You got to try to gain control. So, I mean, I understand what the usage of the timeouts was. It's hard. But when you got a team that's knocking down threes and transition and momentum and the crowd gets going, you got to try to diffuse it some way.
Juju ended up fouling out. He had one of the stiffer games. He's been more fluid lately. It just didn't seem like he had it. So I'm gonna give him a pass for today because it's a long season.
It is.
You mentioned, and of course we talked throughout the game, that when Maryland plays simple basketball, they pass the ball, 2 or 3 passes becomes much easier. And then they went away from that. How do you make a team, how do you get it into their head that that's the way you have to play?
I mean, you just have to understand that it's fun playing basketball like that, where that ball is just moving. And in college basketball, you actually have the benefit of having 6 more seconds in a 30-second shot clock. So that's a long defense. And if you manage to get an offensive rebound, I think it resets back to 19. So imagine teams playing defense for that long when you're moving the ball, and you're getting good looks. You're getting, everybody's in position. You have a balanced transition defense in case guys do miss shots. But when you're going one-on-one, a lot of guys are kind of just standing around, and it doesn't really create opportunities for everybody else. On days where you're making shots, it works. But on days when you're not making shots, that ball kind of needs to move. And you got to be able to play basketball. You have plays, right? And when the play doesn't work, you still have about 12 seconds left in the shot clock. You need to be able to still play basketball, drive and kick and extra pass. And that's what you saw Purdue do. And that's high level basketball right there. And when you get to a certain level, that ball just moves and it's unselfish. It doesn't matter who receives it, it's who's open. And if we can make that shot a good shot to a great shot, that's what we want.
All right. Last one for today, and then we'll wrap it up. And the Terps play again on Tuesday the 17th. So it's finals week, and they get a few days off here. Derik Queen's defense looked at times during that game otherworldly. He was in the right place. He was making blocks. He was getting the rebound. He was even bringing the ball up the court. He is the best Terp you've seen since whom?
I would say Joe Smith, and that's just like off the top of my head. You got a lot of players that have come through Maryland. I mean, don't get me wrong. Lonnie Baxter. You got, Jordan Williams, who was great, that came through as a big. James Smith came through. You got a lot of bigs that came through Maryland. And
Chris Wilcox is one that comes to mind.
Chris Wilcox, for sure. Keith Booth. I mean, come on. The list goes on. But Derik Queen is just special because he does so much. He's offensively gifted, able to score, but he's also able to produce and pass. Like he made a pass from the post tonight with the left hand to Miguel to the three. I think Miguel missed it, but it was on the money. It's on the numbers, like right on the numbers. If he was a shooter, that's a perfect pass. And from the left block, just swinging it like that. That's talent, And then his ability to rebound. And then he made a play tonight on defense that we talked about earlier, where he kind of just pulled the chair on the guy and then recovered for the block and then brought it up the court, made a play. And I'm like, man, that just shows what his ceiling could possibly be. With all the offensive gifts that he has, imagine if his defense increases, and what he's capable of doing. Because he can move. He's athletic. He shows it. May not look like it at times, but if he just puts his body in that mode and his mindset in that mode, like I could be a defensive stopper too, that just increases his value even more.
His level of amazing to me is that he looks like he's doing it in slow motion most of the time, yet the players who are chasing him are running as hard as they can. And I don't know how he makes it look that effortless, but if he was...
He's strong, my bad. He's strong. He can take the hits, man. He takes the hits and he goes through it. He powers through it. He finishes through it.
Yeah, I don't see a lot of that in basketball, but in football and in hockey, there's guys that are that fast that look like they're gliding, that there's not that much effort, and yet they're running away from people. So to be able to look like that, you have to be extremely athletic, even though I agree with you, he doesn't look like it some of the time. He's just chewing that mouth guard and bringing that ball up. He had this fast break where the Purdue guard was chasing him like a dog after a bone, and he just dribbles the ball down and lays it up like nothing's going on.
Yeah. It's very deceptive, kind of Luka Doncic-ish.
There you go. And with that, we will close this out. What I saw today is a team that actually could be really good. I got a lot of text from, boy, this looks like a Sweet 16 Final 8 team. If Juju just had a little better game or Gopari showed a little more like he did against Ohio State, would have been a much different outcome. Certainly a team going in the right direction. And with that, we will wrap it up. James, thanks for jumping in today. And we will see you after can't remember if it's St. Francis coming up on Tuesday the 17th. Good afternoon. Purdue 83, the Terps 78.